Hi friends. See, what's happening around the whole world right now in terms of tariff and in terms of these turmoils that you're seeing, in terms of the market crashes that we are seeing, continuously there is nobody who is being able to breathe easy. So let's try and make a little sense out of exactly what is going on for you. Okay? Let's, for example, start with the basic understanding of what this whole tariff issue is all about, right? In the most simplest of ways to understand, think about it this way, that there is an imported product that you want to buy in your country, okay? But while you want to buy that, let's say, for example, let's take an Apple iPhone, or let's say take a BYD car, something that is not manufactured in India. And if you wanted to manufacture, if you wanted to buy that, sorry, your government also wants to have a share of it. So they also want to make a little profit. See, you're going to spend, but the government wants a little profit. Now, what the government says is to the foreign company that, hey, you can sell to the citizens of my country, but I'm going to charge you a little tariff, which means to enter my country, there's a little fee that you will have to pay. Okay? Different names for it, tariff, custom duty, etc. But you'll have to pay that charge. So when America is levying a tariff, what does that mean? That if we wanted to sell something in America, they're going to charge a tariff. But ultimately, who's going to pay? It is the American consumer which will pay. So in the same way, if we were to import something, who's going to pay at the end of the day? Is the Indian consumer who's going to pay the additional charge. Effectively, the government is taking away the money when the goods are entering the country. But when the goods get sold, it's actually we who have funded the citizens. We have funded that particular tariff or duty, which effectively becomes the government's revenue. So in this fashion, all the countries around the world, they charge each other this kind of tariff. Okay? So let's understand why then, if this is a set practice for the last about 100 years, why should the stock market fall? I mean, what's the problem? Okay, let me explain this thing with another very simple example. Okay, let us say that you wanted to export some clothes, some apparel. Okay, so if you wanted to export clothes, what you're going to do is you're going to manufacture from here. But then, when you're going to send it to America, the American consumer can't afford it because he will have to pay more for it. Okay, the American importer, the guy who's going to bring your products into America, he might come around and tell you that give me a little discount. Now, you may not be in a position to give the discount. So what has to happen? Either you have to, do profit at do business at zero profit, which may not be a feasible thing for you to do. The other thing is the American importer will have to look elsewhere in the world where he can get the same product or the same quality at a cheaper price. That may or may not be possible. Now, what happens is, let us say there's a catch-22 situation. Everybody's at their status quo. Then what happens is you are stuck with all the inventory. Now, you've not been able to sell. You can't sell to other parts of the world. There's a limit you can do that, right? But beyond a limit, what can you do? So you're stuck with your inventory. Now, once you're stuck with your inventory, let us say your raw material is coming from another country. Take, for example, Thailand, just for sake of example, okay? Now, what will you tell your Thai vendor? You will tell him that, wait a minute, listen, my stocks is not got sold, so you don't ship anything from there because I can't hold inventory. I'm already holding inventory. I can't just manufacture more for nothing when I don't have sales to do. Now, correspondingly, the Thai vendor might have his own vendors from whom he is procuring things to create your raw material. See, you get this essence? You understand what's happening? The entire supply chain gets disrupted. The entire cycle of business gets disrupted and everything comes to a standstill. This is what the stock market is anticipating in the few months to come. And because of that, you are seeing this absolute mayhem that is happening in the stock market today. Okay? Let's also understand some other statistics. Okay, USA today imports or buys goods and services worth almost $3.25 trillion. Multiply that in Indian rupees. Even if you try to understand, it's close to about 270 odd lakh crore Indian rupees. 270 lakh crore Indian rupees. It's a humongous figure. But okay, there's another way to look at the same figure. Our GDP very recently came somewhere around the 4 trillion level. We are at about $4 trillion of GDP. The whole of India produces, the revenue of all the companies and all the individuals of India is about 4 trillion $4 trillion. America alone only buys goods and services worth about 3.25 trillion. See the contrast? It's a massive buyer. It's the biggest buyer in the planet. So that's why when the demand is so much, they are doing a little bit of arm twisting, if you like. But like I said, there is nothing new about it. Tariffs have been around for thousands of years. So stay on, but there is more data which is coming your way. Very interestingly, to understand why is Canada and Mexico and China maximum in the news, because Mexico supplies 19% of America's imports, and China supplies almost as much as 15%. 17%. Canada supplies about 15%, and Europe is supplying about 19%. So if you add up these four components, these four countries and geographies, basically Canada in the north, Mexico in the south, China in the east, and Europe, if you add these four, then it constitutes almost close to about 70% of America's imports. So obviously, if such a big buyer is going to levy all these kind of tariffs, then the whole global supply chain, the entire cycle of business, the cash flows, everything gets stuck, you see. So that basically is the problem, and which is why you're seeing the markets actually falling the way they are falling. So what's happening here is America is alone across the whole world, and everybody is looking at their problem individually because it is that way. But for America, they are handling multiple problems at the same time, and because everybody is retaliating and everybody is levying some sort of a tariff for the other. So is this tariff good or bad? One may actually start thinking about it, right? So you have to decide that now. See, I will give you the facts. Citizens in the country, whichever country, are the ones who are actually bearing the cost of this tariff. They are the ones who are actually paying for it. So it's the ordinary citizens who will have to pay more. Now, what happens is you have no option to buy if there is no possibility of manufacturing in your own country. For example, if America has been importing pharma for so long, you have no option but to buy. Now that pharma stocks might come at a certain tariff, but the American consumer has to pay that. There's no option. Overnight production cannot happen. Overnight people cannot be educated. Overnight people cannot be skilled. I mean, it's going to take its own time, but there is going to be some lag time in the meanwhile. But in the meanwhile, what happens is there's going to be absolute hue and cry, chaos, mayhem, crisis, everything put together. And that's what we are seeing today. Okay. So what happens is that the country earns money, right? But the citizens have to pay that money. So the country becomes richer, citizens become that much poorer because they are spending that money after they have earned their money, on which they have paid their income tax and maybe the indirect tax. This is applicable anywhere in the world. And in India's context, we have paid income tax and then we have paid GST on expenditures. Whatever is left is what we are using, let's say, for necessities and luxuries which we are importing from there. There's tax on that also. It's a lot of tax that we are paying, right? So let's look at about India. Let's specifically talk about India because we are in India, right? So we pulled out some statistics and figures from the income tax website and the central excise website, etc. We figure that almost in the year 23-24, 45 lakh crores was the total revenue generated from taxes, all sorts of taxes, okay, direct tax, personal income tax, corporate tax, GST, other taxes, and customs duty and excise, all of that. Out of that, how much was actually excise and customs? It's about 5 lakh crores. As a percentage, it's just about 10%, right? Or little above 10%. Now, think about it this way, that as Indian citizens, we are not levying any less tariff on the world, by the way. If you are importing cars, luxury cars, we are charging anywhere between 60% to used cars are being charged 125%. So much of tariff. Okay, luxury watches and anything that is worth money and from where the government will earn a lot of money, there is a lot of tariff that we are putting. See, by the way, the basic customs duty in India is 20%. Add to that, 28% IGST. Then there's a 10% surcharge. So that's how America has done some calculation. Like works out to about 50%, 52% average. We are charging that to the world. So why should we fret and fume so much if somebody's going to charge reciprocal tariffs onto us? Now, wouldn't it be really nice if we had a world which didn't have tariffs? I mean, this is like, two kids playing that if you're going to hit me, I'm going to hit you. But at the end of the day, this is a slightly different kind of a fight or a war, if you like. This is like a war where if you fire a bullet, it actually comes out of your gun, takes a U-turn and comes back and hits you. So if the opposite party, they fire a bullet, it doesn't come to you, it just turns around and hits them back. That's how this tariff is. It's kind of crazy, right? So if I'm saying that I'll charge you 25% tariff, but ultimately my citizen is getting hurt. If the opposite country says that I will also charge you 35% tariff, it is their citizens who are going to get hurt at the end of it. So this is what is happening as a result of trade and geopolitics. So somewhere you have to decide whether this tariff itself is a good idea or not such a good idea. I mean, I'm thinking of this in a completely different light, because the way I'm looking at it is, this action triggered by America today is probably making the entire world think and rethink, is this a good idea? Is this the right thing to have done in the first place? We are charging tariff on each other. It's like mutual damage or mutually accepted disaster, because what is going to happen is there's going to be first inflation, then recession. Both countries are going to suffer and all citizens are going to suffer. So it's a short. So why actually do that? Why not just why not take a few steps towards free trade, and why not make life a little easy? Why not actually charge nothing, or charge really, nominal, and if you have to charge that too. So, I buy something from you, you buy something from me. Once upon a time, we used to have barter trades that used to happen in this way. Now imagine there is a similar sort of a trade happening. I'm paying you something, you're paying me something, and then there's a government who wants to also charge. I mean, government also has to run their machinery, but I don't think it's too difficult if they do some calibration or recalibration of the income tax and the indirect tax and spare this kind of a global war, because this is obviously and visibly not in anybody's interest, right? So I hope the relevant people think about it and take some action on this. But in the meanwhile, what would you do? So there's a lot of uncertainty, and this uncertainty that has been caused is not going to go away very soon. It's going to hang around for some time, till the time, and it's only subject to political statements and announcements coming from various governments. So till such time, there's nothing that we can do about it. Hopefully we will move to a lesser tariff regime. I'm just really hopeful, and I'm thinking positive that some of the countries will take such a stance, saying that look, let's not charge so much, let's kind of go down. I might see collaborations happening. You and I will see collaborations where we will, trade will change the route. Maybe something different like that will happen. Maybe there'll be some make in USA focus coming up again. Maybe there'll be a lot of companies and a lot of industries around the world who may think, okay, let's give the United States a chance and let's try and manufacture there. I mean, let's do that, because if the business interest is demanding that action be taken, maybe we'll see some announcements like that also coming up in times to come. Dollar will stay important. It will stay as the world's currency. I mean, these are kind of things that may happen, okay? But what do you do with your portfolio right now? If you are fully invested, you have no choice. You have to go down, you have to take the whipsaw. But remember one thing, the rule always applies, and without fail this applies, right? If it goes down really fast, it will also come back up that fast. So that's for you if you are fully invested. Obviously, if you have cash in your hand, if you are not invested and there is a opportunity to invest, then go ahead and start investing money. These are probably some of the best days to invest, because you're getting the best of companies at the best of valuations, at the lowest of valuations. You probably may not see an opportunity like that emerging in the next couple of years again. So why not actually go and try and buy some of these best companies or best mutual funds if you don't want to have the hassle of picking them yourself? Why not do that? It's a great time. Go ahead and make your investments. If you're doing monthly investments, double them. If you can't double them, at least you can put some ad hoc investment in that. Look at your bank account. If you've got any amount of money, this is probably that time, the opposite of a rainy day. This is that kind of a day where you want to put in the maximum that you have. I'm not saying that this is the bottom, nobody can say that, but this is pretty much reasonably the bottom. As an average, we have come down to those levels. So if you look at small cap as a category, the average fall has been about 30%. We are at about 28.5%. So we are very close, right? Same with mid cap, same with junior Nifty, same with Nifty. All the things have come to their average falls. Okay, the index itself is down about 20%, about 18-19%, close to 20%. That's the average of all the previous falls. So therefore, it's becoming a very, very nice opportunity. And if you take advantage of that now, there's nothing better that you could do for your portfolio and for your future and the future of your family and the future of your wealth and prosperity. Right. So with that, it's a wrap. I mean, this was a special little sharing of thoughts which I thought might be useful to you, and if they are useful, then keep coming back for more content. Thank you.